With the first episode of the Beyblade X anime now behind us, I wanted to ask you guys and ask the community in general what you think. I made a community tab, that's hard to say. I made a community tab post asking you guys what you thought of the episode, and for the most part, it was pretty positive, but there were a few things that a lot of people agreed was kind of maybe not so great. I reached out to another creator as well, Nizuma Blader, and he's gonna give his thoughts on the anime as well. But the first thing we're gonna do is look at your comments on my community tab post. I gotta write that time. But first, this video is sponsored by Mall of Toys. Viper Tail and Leon Claw just came out, and if you haven't picked up Dran's Sword or Hell's Scythe yet, you need to get on it. It's gonna be like a year until Beyblade X comes out in the West, so if you can pick up some of these X Bays now, I highly recommend it. But Mall of Toys is the best place for it, so go and check them out. Links in the description down below, or scan the QR code somewhere and use code ilinnuc to get 5% off of your first purchase. Okay, so moving on to your comments. The first one is from Champion Valtric 7620, and they say, almost beat for beat with the manga. Not that it's a bad thing. It was solid in terms of the introduction and hints of characters or future characters. So for this first part, I agree with it. I mean, it does follow the manga pretty exactly, although that may cause problems in the future, but I'll talk about that later. But let's move on. They also say, I like the interactions between Common X and Kazami Bird, and I can't wait to see Multi in the next episode battle. The animation itself, however, looks a little too stiff, although it is just the first episode. I also agree with this, and complaints about the animation is something we're gonna see quite a bit in this video. Overall, the anime has potential. Yes, it does. The plot seems really great, and I'm enjoying it a lot so far. I'm sure a lot of you guys are enjoying it as well if you're able to watch it. A new generation of Beyblade is always hype, and it always has so much potential. I chose to show you guys this comment first because I think it kind of represents both the really good parts of the anime and also some things that maybe a lot of people think aren't so great. This next comment is from Raichi Rose, and they say, for a new generation of Beyblade, I love the dynamic and bays of the new series. I can't wait to see more. This is the way that I feel. I love the new Beyblades. I love the new system. Some people aren't really sold on it yet. I mean, you're going to have a lot of people really liking Burst and missing Burst and not thinking X looks as good. But once we see more of it, people will probably change their opinions. The next one is from Twinkity Doink, and they said smash. Enough said. After that, we have a comment from Cumbernumb, and they say it's fine, but the animation looks super stiff and janky, to be honest, compared to Burst and even Metal Fight. You may be noticing a little bit of a pattern already. The next comment is from Mace the Blader, and they say, I'm worried. The anime already seems to have the quality of late Burst, which wasn't the best. I don't mean to critique too much, I just think the animation for this generation was probably rushed. So here we have yet another comment about the animation, because I think most people can agree that the plot seems pretty interesting, or at least it has good potential, but you can see there's a lot of comments about the animation. And since we're on the topic of the animation of the episode, I want to take this over to Nizuma Blader and get his thoughts on this first episode of the anime.
Hey guys, how's it going? Nizuma Blader here, giving my thoughts on the first episode of Beyblade X. So, positive notes. First, it basically follows the manga one-to-one, which is great. The manga is very good, and I think it's going to continue to be very good. There is a question as to what they're going to do with the anime as it surpasses the manga, since the manga comes out at a much slower rate. Very interested to see how that progresses. But overall, I think the plot is good. It's fine. It's basically just the manga plot so far.
So his positives are being echoed kind of around the community right now, with the characters, the bays, the designs, the plot having a lot of potential. So let's get into the negatives.
Additionally, there's a lot of shots in the first episode that is just exposition. It's just characters talking between each other. There's not a lot of dynamic camera angles during those conversations either, so that part I feel like felt a little boring. Granted, the first episode is very exposition heavy, but they could have done some different shots, some different angles to sort of mix that up rather than just two portraits talking to each other. I thought that was not amazing.
He makes a pretty good point here about the animation being pretty static, not really having a lot of dynamic camera angles. And I definitely noticed that the first time I watched the episode. It felt very still at certain points, or characters were very like wooden, not very expressive. Over the years, I've kind of forgotten the way that Beyblade Burst looked at the very beginning. So I went on YouTube and I searched up the first episode of Beyblade Burst, and Vault has so much energy. He's very expressive. There's just a lot of energy packed into the animation that I really don't think that X has, or at least has yet.
Some of the animation throughout the episode looks a little wonky. So in anime, you've got keyframes, which are like from point A to point B for animation. Then you've got sort of these filler frames that get from point A to point B. A lot of those in-between frames look rushed.
Nizuma's point here on the animation, and specifically the frames in between the keyframes, is not really something I noticed at the very beginning. It's pretty technical, but whenever I watch the episode for a second, or especially a third time, I think that's where this lack of energy comes from. Going back to Vault in Beyblade Burst, he is very expressive with his face, with his body, he moves around a lot, and then in between those frames just give you this sense of, I don't know how to describe it other than the word energy. It's still the first episode, so I know it's not really fair to give an assessment on the quality so far, but we are seeing quite a bit of it already, and I think it's fair to talk about the animation maybe not being what we wanted, at least not yet. But all the animation stuff we're talking about right now is more specifically for everything outside of the battles. Everybody knows that Beyblade Burst and Beyblade in general looks the best in those battle scenes. And for my take, I think there's a lot of good stuff here, and also some stuff that seems kind of lame so far, but I'm sure it's going to get better throughout the series. But I want to hear Nizuma's take on this.
The animation for the battles looks very similar. My biggest complaint with the battles is that the Beyblades lack a sense of speed. Some of the visual effects during certain points sort of increase that sense of speed, but for the most part, when they're just spinning, it literally just looks like a 3D model spinning, and I don't think that looks amazing.
Once again, I think you really nailed this point about the bays seeming kind of slow or just lacking that sense of speed. I do think this comes from it being the very first episode. You can't really have the bays be super quick and looking super cool, because then what are you going to do going forward? I will say though, it is kind of jarring going from playing with the bays in real life and they're just ripping around the stadium, and then you watch the anime and they're definitely a lot slower except for one scene. That one scene though, the extreme dash, was pretty cool. This series, besides some very minor style changes, does look very similar to Beyblade Burst though. So if you didn't like the animation or the style of Beyblade Burst, you probably won't like X that much. You should definitely still give it a shot. Watch a few episodes whenever they're available to see what you really think, but you are going to be getting something very similar.
Obviously, this anime has come out very fast, and I would attribute that to probably the timeline. I'm not going to, say that that the animators are necessarily doing anything wrong. They're probably under an immense amount of stress to push these out within the time frame. So that's really, I think, on Takara and on the studio for maybe having that deadline a little too fast. I think maybe they should have given a little more time for the launch of the anime to give the animators time to really polish it.
This is an unfortunate symptom and result of a big problem in Japan regarding animation and animation studios. A really popular anime that's released this year called ZOM 100, you may have heard of it, that is animated by Bug Films. And their entire studio, or at least a major makeup of it, actually came from OLM. And they split because of these issues regarding being overworked. I don't know if the quality would have been any better if the anime got a few more months to kind of cook in the oven, but at least the people that drew these frames would have gotten a full night's sleep.
Overall, plot's good, Music's good, sound design's good. My major complaints are really just with the animation, but I will continue to watch it, of course, and support the anime, the official release, and the animators, because it's not their fault. It's really a studio issue, and Takara Tomy really trying to push it out probably faster than they should have. But that's my thoughts, guys.
Big thank you to Nizuma for giving me his thoughts on the anime, both positive, negative, and anywhere in the middle. I'll leave a link to his channel in the description down below, so go and check him out. And finally, I want to wrap up with some more comments from you guys from my community tab post. This one is from Earth in the Comments 4944. They said, the battles looking and feeling just like Burst basically makes the Metal Fight battles feel timeless. I'll always miss the DBZ-like battles of Metal Fight. I really liked Metal Fight growing up. I'd still say it's my favorite generation because that's what I have the nostalgia for. Sometimes these bays battling for, like he said, DBZ-like battles is a little bit long. Dragon Ball Z has that meme of characters just kind of standing there powering up or talking for like 5 episodes. But I would like somewhere in the middle to where maybe it's a single battle, but it's not as long as Metal Fight, but not as short as Beyblade Burst, but we'll just have to see. This comment comes from Strato Abyss 3187. They say, I was a little miffed that the style was basically just Burst, but I liked it. Seeing the extreme dash on screen was super cool. Once again, kind of a style thing, whether you like Burst or not. We still have to wait and see how it develops because we haven't seen that much yet. So it could be really different from Burst in the future. From right now, it is very similar. I do want to wrap up on the point from Champion Valtric earlier, where he mentioned it being very similar to the manga, if not beat for beat. And I was saying how that might be kind of a bad thing potentially in the future. And what I mean by that is this one episode of Beyblade X took up the whole entire first chapter. The whole first chapter. And we get one manga chapter every month. I think we're going to be on chapter 5 in just like a week or so. So if every single episode is one single chapter, at some point, very, very soon, the anime is going to pass the manga. So does that mean at some point we're going to get like one canon episode and then 4 or 5 filler ones? I'm interested to see how this works. But that's going to wrap up this video. If you liked it, hit the like button, hit subscribe to join the Nook Nation. Go and check out Nizuma Blader. Big thanks to him. And also, what do you think of the anime? And also, what do you think of the future of the anime as well? Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Have fun and bay away.